Welcome to Amazing Stories Long Play Edition. I am your host, the Chameleon, and I will be using this voice to tell this story. If you are just relaxing around the house or driving a car, this long play edition is just for you. Please enjoy my tale of driving me crazy. Chapter 1, Dreaming to Belong. Jake Smalls had spent most of his high school life feeling invisible, like a background character in someone else's story. All the other guys in his grade seemed to have it made. Part-time jobs, flashy clothes, and most importantly, cars. Parking lots became their playgrounds, and on weekends, those cars carried them to parties and adventures Jake could only dream about. For Jake, the worst part wasn't missing out on the fun. It was the stinging reality of being left behind, walking home while the cool kids sped away. Every time he watched his classmates peel out of the school parking lot, a knot tightened in his stomach. They had freedom. They had status. Jake had nothing. Just sneakers that wore out too quickly and a bike with a chain that popped off. Every time he pedaled too hard, he wanted more than anything to have what they had, to be someone they'd notice for once. His father used to tell him that it wasn't about what you had, but who you were. Those words stayed with Jake, though they felt hollow now that his dad was gone. His father had died suddenly when Jake was in middle school, leaving just him and his mom to figure life out on their own. His mother did her best, working double shifts at a diner to make ends meet. But there were days when even a warm meal felt like a luxury. Jake hated seeing the exhaustion etched on her face every night, knowing there was little he could do to help. Still, he took on a part-time job at the local grocery store, hoping to ease some of the burden and to chase his own dream of getting a car. Every dollar went into a savings jar he kept hidden in the back of his closet, far away from bills and necessities. Jake's best friend, Matthew Wayne, tried to keep his spirits up, even when things felt hopeless. Matthew had been his friend since they were kids, the kind of person Jake could always count on. They used to joke about Matthew's last name, with Jake insisting that his friend was Batman's long-lost brother. Despite Matthew's laid-back attitude, even he had managed to get a car. A beat-up, rusted old sedan that was more rattle than ride, but a car nonetheless. It stung Jake more than he liked to admit, knowing his best friend had achieved what still felt so out of reach for him. But Matthew never rubbed it in. Instead, he offered rides whenever Jake needed them, without question. Still, Jake couldn't help but dream about the day he'd no longer need to rely on anyone else. Finally, after nearly a year of saving, Jake had scraped together $2,500. His mom saw how hard he had worked and offered to pitch in the last $500, even though she could barely afford it.
I want this for you,
she said softly, handing him the money one morning before school. Jake hugged her tightly, the weight of her kindness making his eyes sting. With exactly $3,000 in hand, he felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety. It wasn't much. At least not for a good car, but it was all he had. He had heard about a strange, out-of-the-way car lot called Big's Car Emporium, and Matthew offered to drive him there after school.
It's not exactly a dealership,
Matthew had warned with a grin.
but they got some weird stuff. You might get lucky.
The two boys drove an hour out of town, their conversation filled with anticipation and jokes about what kind of car Jake might find. Jake's palms were sweaty as they pulled into the lot. Big's Car Emporium was even worse than he imagined. An open graveyard of rusted metal and broken glass. Faded banners flapped in the wind, as if mocking the idea that anyone could ever find a dream car here. But despite the sinking feeling in his gut, Jake squared his shoulders. This was it. One way or another, he was going home with a car. The sign above the entrance was crooked, with several of the letters missing. If you enjoyed so far, please leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel. The Chameleon will drop a new chapter every week. Same time and same place. Goodbye for now, you little critters.